Hi everyone, so I am back with another video. Today we're focusing on a section which is going to focus on the areas of the brain, which is localization of function. Now lots of people see this area as an area of concern. There are numerous ways to try and revise this kind of topic area, but I'm going to go through a few questions that I've created myself. These questions, as I said, feel free to practice them, break them down yourself, and then look at how I would respond to them. So let's have a look at the first question, which is this. So it is outline localization of function. So quite to the point here with regards to the question. So obviously outline, 6 marks, and localization is the key phrase here, right? So if I just get rid of that, okay, so localization of function, the first thing that comes into your head here should be so specific areas have specific functions. Okay, so this is a theory that argues that specific areas of the brain do specific functions. Okay, so how would you go about starting this question? Now, as I said, these views are my own for my own question, and this is just personally what I would do in this situation. Again, I'm going to do this in kind of bullet point format, so if you want to pause the video now at this moment and have a go at what you would do yourself, and then you can go back with my responses and adjust your answers if you want to. Okay, so hopefully you paused that there. And we're now going to go into the breakdown of what I would do. Okay, so first off, on the question, obviously we should be aware that this is AO1. Okay, so this is AO1, just AO1 pure knowledge. So I would start with what the theory actually says. So localization of function is the idea that, or argues that, again, like we said up above, specific areas of the brain have specific functions. Okay, so you've started straight away with the examiner, you know. So if the question was talking about hemispheric lateralization, you really want to emphasize the fact that functions are lateralized, so split either to the left or the right area. Obviously the holistic theory would argue the brain works as one, but localization of function is the idea that specific areas have specific functions. Now we need to describe this a little bit more, and the structure I would take here, again, it's for me, I would go depth over breadth. So what I wouldn't do is now just list and just name all the areas. So I wouldn't say this consists of the motor cortex, somatosensory, auditory cortex, visual cortex, Broca's area. Like, don't do that. Okay, so in my opinion, what I would do now is pick maybe 2 or 3 of those and then just go into a little bit more depth on those areas. So for example, you might want to pick the motor cortex. So you've named it, so you're going to explain the function. So you're giving examples here to boost your knowledge. So explain function, and then I would do a little bit underneath about damage. So what if there is damage? Okay, so something along the lines of, you know, the motor cortex with regards to localization of function is argued to control motor movement, fine motor movements. If this area is damaged, it is argued, according to this theory, that the person may lose control of their motor movement. Okay, and then again, you maybe want to do that for another area. So for example, leading on to that, so you might want to go for Broca's area. Okay, Broca's area, and then just maybe describe production of language, and if damaged, Broca's aphasia, etc. But the big focus is on localization. Okay, so you don't want to be talking about left hemisphere this and right hemisphere that. It's all about the specific area, overall theory, give a couple of examples, name, explain what if there's damage. Okay, so that's how I personally would do that question. Okay, so as we come on to the next question, which I've come up with myself, I really suggest that as you are looking at these questions, that you really look at the marks and the command word first. I've said that from the start. Obviously the marks indicating the time, the command word telling you exactly what you need to do. So if you look at this, for example, for a question, if we hadn't just done the previous question and you rush into this and you think, oh, research localization of functions, so I have to describe a load of case studies or I have to describe what localization of function is, you are simply wasting time. So as you break down this question, again, maybe pause the video first, see what you would do. Really consider the command word, the marks, what's it actually asking. Okay, so hopefully if you've paused it and had a go yourself, so you're talking about evaluate. So now we are dealing obviously with AO3. Research obviously can be theories or studies, so and or studies, and we're still dealing with localization because that's what this video is about. We've got 4 marks, so probably giving ourselves about 4 minutes or just over in relation. So have a think. How would you approach this question? Give it a go, give yourself 4 minutes, try and write it in full, and then again I'll offer my suggestions. Okay, so again, numerous ways to kind of think about this and what you could do. I strongly advise, kind of exam tip wise, if it says briefly evaluate, try and get in a little bit of a strength and a little bit of a weakness rather than just focusing on a weakness, because the question doesn't say outline one limitation in this case, or outline one strength of research, so it's not being as specific as that. So even if you did one full peel point of a weakness and then a quick counter argument, you've kind of evaluated because you're kind of considering both sides. So this word evaluate, as we know, obviously strengths, weaknesses. With regards to this, as we said before, this word, research, obviously can mean theory and or study and localization. So there's numerous things here. The first thing you might want to kind of mention is you could go down the route of Phineas Gage, giving supporting evidence for localization. So you might want to mention about the brain damage to his frontal lobe, because he had an accident at work, and he became bad-tempered and rude and things like this. And it's thought that the frontal lobe, because it was the frontal lobe that experienced damage, so this is providing support with the idea that because he was bad-tempered and rude, that the frontal lobe is responsible for regulating mood. Now, the problem with that is, I mean, fair, you can do that, but often in specifications they talk about not, the lobes aren't named necessarily on the specification, so you can use that absolutely fine. You could use the case study of EB, who had the left hemisphere removed, so Broca's area should be removed, but they could regain language. So there's numerous things you could do, but as I said, I'm going to go for Now, actually, it's difficult because there are so many options here. So you could go down that route. You could go Phineas Gage supporting localization, and then you could do a counter argument. However, it's a case study and often research into localization, so you're linking back to the question. Often research into localization is based on a case study, therefore there's issues with external validity and the generalizing nature of this. You could go down that route. As I said, personally, just because it's the study I would include, I'd go down the route of EB and then do the same thing. You could, like with all essays really in this topic, you could say much of the research conducted into localization of function is praised for its objectivity and scientific nature, and then you could say, however, and talk about brain scans and stuff, but you could say, however, then that's based on case studies. So there's numerous things you could do, but that's just to give you a flavour and an idea. But top exam tip, as I said, briefly evaluate research, do a strength or a weakness, and then a quick counter argument on the end. That counter argument doesn't have to be developed loads, but you obviously need to explain yourself a little bit. Okay, so now we come to our final question that I've made up. So I've made up a scenario for this one. So I've put, Stephen has had a stroke, can no longer move the right side of his body. He is finding it difficult to understand what his dad is asking him. However, he can speak fluently to him with no problem at all. So the question says, with reference to localization of function, explain the experiences of Stephen. Now, that could say, with reference to hemispheric lateralization and localization. So you may, if it was hemispheric, you focus more on the left and the right and things like this. But localization of function wants you to focus on those specific areas doing specific functions. So again, pause the video, have a go at breaking down the question, and then I'll go through. Okay, right, so this phrase I've put in the question when I made this up because it's a very common thing that the exam boards like to do. So they drop in a phrase like with reference to the working memory model, with reference to Bowlby's maternal deprivation theory. So they do like that phrase with reference to. But we've got to explain the experiences of Stephen. So we are obviously dealing here with an AO2 application. We have to use our knowledge, so mark schemes may say only AO2, but obviously I've not got a mark scheme for this because I made this up, but in similar questions you have to use knowledge to access this question. So that's why I might encourage you to do AO1. Then you want to really get an idea of this scenario. So no longer can move the right side of his body, so clearly there's been an issue in his left side, but it says he is finding it difficult to understand what his dad is asking him, but he can speak fluently. Okay, so this is hinting at the areas. So off of understanding language, we might want to write what you might have put vernix. Off of the bit about speaking and producing language is Broca, or Broca's area. Okay, so how would you go about this answer? Well, what I would say is you do need to emphasize the application throughout everything. Okay, it is no use just going, Stephen is experiencing damage to Broca's area. Broca's area does this, this, and this. If it's damaged, it does this, this, and this. It's too generic. So what you want to do instead, in my opinion, is use caution for a start. So you might want to say something like, Stephen may be finding, so straight away, Stephen may be finding it's difficult to understand his dad because ... So you've linked to the scenario straight away. Now, there is an issue, potentially, with vernix area. So at this moment, as I've always said, never just do all the AO1 and then drop in a quote. So if you're going to use a quote, such as he is finding it difficult to understand what he's asking him, you could say something along the lines of, vernix area is responsible for the understanding of language. It is a potential possibility, or it is a possibility that Stephen is suffering from vernix aphasia. So you're showing key terminology. This could be because he is saying it's difficult to understand his dad, and this is a symptom of having vernix area affected. So as I said, little bit of application, put in your knowledge, show off your knowledge a little bit of key terminology, and then you're linking back and you're explaining the quotes. You also want to say, because it's not just saying with reference to vernix area, it's the whole experiences. So the fact he can speak fluently implies that Broca's area has not been affected, and this is why he can ... Okay, so that is, as I said, a question I've created. You may see or may have seen similar questions to that in the past, but that's how I would go about answering that one. So I hope that helps a little bit with specifically the localization of function area. Obviously, if there are any questions, feel free to leave a comment or ask directly. Don't forget, in the lead up here to the exams, I'll be uploading more and more of these videos to try and help you succeed in the exams and upcoming assessments. So if you're a year 12 student, this could quite easily come up in a final assessment that you do at the end of the year. And obviously year 13 students, your exams are very, very soon. So to avoid disappointment, don't forget to hit the like button, make sure you subscribe, share this with your friends and other people that may be needing some help. If there is any requests of particular videos or styles of video, then please do let me know. But for now, I hope that helps, and I will see you next time.